if you were objectively looking at your own life, you might think this is not the best idea for fiction. It's not super exciting. Like no one has made out with me in the rain today. Like you don't.
Welcome to Creative Insanity. Creative Insanity.
Hey, my name is Servant. I am a rap artist, producer, and other things from Edson, Alberta, and today I had the great pleasure of speaking with Halee Pierog. Halee is a very fine actor and currently based in the town I live, Edson. I found her while casting for my upcoming music video. Not only did I find her, I was thrilled to find her and grateful to work with her, especially given her talent and rich experience in theater and film. I found this conversation to be equal parts fascinating and refreshing. We talk about the art of acting, channeling emotions, being an introvert, but also about being an actor in Alberta and all the challenges that come with that. If you're new to my podcast, welcome. Creative Insanity is a discussion-based show where I speak with hyper-creative people from all disciplines and from all around the world. My guests and I examine their approach to creativity, what keeps them sane, and we sometimes workshop original art that premieres exclusively on this channel, such as short stories, paintings, and freestyles. The whole point of this show is to be fuel for creative people. If you're one of them and you enjoy this sort of thing, please subscribe, leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts, maybe an encouraging comment on YouTube, or a suggestion for future guests you'd like me to have on. Now back to Halee. I couldn't have asked for a better guest to be in my first official episode filmed entirely in my studio and not across Zoom. She was fantastic, and I'm thrilled with how this turned out. So let's slap into it. Is it Pierog or Pierog? I know I always mess it up.
It's Pierog.
Pierog.
Yes.
That's neither of the options I presented.
No. It actually means one pierogi in Polish.
Well, you're a fine pierogi. I'm going to not edit that. I'm going to keep that out, is what I mean. You probably get that all the time.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody loves pierogies. Okay. Halee Pierog. Pierog? Pierog.
Pierog.
Pierog. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to get this. All right.
It's okay. Now it just sounds weird no matter how you say it.
Right. Halee Pierog.
Yes.
Welcome to Creative Insanity.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Welcome to the first in-person Creative Insanity. That's what's crazy about what's happening here. Normally, it's always over Zoom, and now you're in my studio because you're local. You're in Edson. I want to know about you. So we're collaborating on something, and we're going to get into that maybe a little bit later, but you're an actor.
I am.
How long have you been an actor?
I graduated from college in 2015, so I guess I've been professionally an actor since then. Was that 6 years?
Yeah. Time adds up. What college did you go to?
Red Deer College. I did 2 years in the theater performance and creation program, and then 2 years in the motion picture arts program.
Which one's better?
I would say theater.
What did you like so much about theater?
The theater program there just offered so many things. It wasn't just about acting. They taught us stage fighting, a little bit of singing and dancing, just like multiple methods to use for acting. But the motion picture arts program was great because it wasn't just acting. I got to learn a lot of other skills behind the camera. So even though I don't use them, I can understand how hard they'll be for
Right.
the crew. But yeah, both of them were at RDC, and I came out with a degree, which means nothing.
Well, not nothing.
It means something to me. But yeah, the program was amazing, and yeah, I'm really grateful for that. And then they got rid of it.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So they closed the program. Is that because not enough people were going to it?
I think lack of funding. Yeah.
You know, that's something common in Alberta,
Yes.
I would say, is a lack of arts funding or arts opportunities in general.
Yes.
Since you came out of college, and I imagine you were quite serious about pursuing acting, what have the opportunities been like? What have you had to do to try to be involved in projects?
It has been really hard. I find a lot of big productions that Alberta has are in Calgary and Edmonton, but mostly Calgary, which is great. But I find a lot of them are male dominant, Western dominant. We're taking advantage of our cowboys here,
Right.
which is good, but don't apply to me. So I find a lot of independent projects, which have been great, but it would be nice to also do bigger TV series and movies.
Yeah. It would be nice. I mean, Calgary's big enough, and even Edmonton's big enough. They could have the studios. I think a lot of it has to do with the tax situation. I know some people are working pretty hard in Alberta to try to make more opportunities. And a lot of that comes down to the financial side. How can we incentivize bigger studios to want to come and film here? You know, BC, North Hollywood has figured it out. They've got good incentives. They have good weather. They've got a lot of things that they can work with various times of the year. And Alberta has most of those things too, a bit of a different layout, but we have so much sunshine. We have the most sunshine out of any province, which is crazy. Even though
Yeah,
we
I didn't
have,
know that.
yeah, even though we have winters and we have snow, there's always a lot of sunshine, which I know can be very nice for certain shoots. I think it's just about trying to get the right projects to come here. Have you ever thought about going elsewhere,
Yes.
doing the whole, arrive on a boat in LA? We don't need boats to get there, but, the romantic image of that.
Just for effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Toronto for about 9 months in 2015, 16 maybe. And it was so hard. There were so many more opportunities than Alberta, but obviously like 10 times as much competition.
Right.
So I did a couple things, just like independent things, which was really great, but just so hard.
Yeah, it seems like a very tough road for anybody, but even for somebody who's very talented, it can be incredibly tough. Did you have a realistic expectation of that when you started, or did you have an idea that things were going to click really quickly career-wise?
I think I believed I would do stuff because I am such a hard worker. I'm very motivated. But yeah, I think the hardest part too is that, artists need to have a real job. You still need to make money even though you're pursuing these things you want to do. You need the money to pursue these things. So between like having a job and just being exhausted from that, you only have so much energy to do that for so long, which is probably why I came back after 9 months. I was just not fulfilled as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it is tough. I have similar experience wanting things to take off in certain directions, hoping that, I don't know, someone would discover me. Like when we were kids, we're pretty close in age, I think. I'm older than you by a few years. But I'm speaking of generalities, I think when we were kids, we were told we were flowers. We could do anything. We're very special. We're very talented. And I can attest, you are very talented. And from the
thank
work
you.
that I've seen of you and, the work we're doing together, which will come out in a couple of weeks after this. So, and I'm really, really excited about that. You are very hardworking, and I'm hardworking too. And we just kind of had this expectation, like, because we are talented, because we care about it, because it could happen, follow your dreams. Everything it's just going to happen. And I think, not even strictly in the arts, but I think a lot of people in the arts from Alberta and beyond have had this experience where, from our generation, where you just hit reality at a certain point and you go, wow, this is really freaking hard, really difficult to make it through, to stand out, to get on the right projects, to meet the right people. And what you said about having to work a normal job to support it, also really hits home because it's the strategy we're told, and it's sadly the strategy that makes sense, you know? You kind of need to be able to make money to support your hobby and passion. But I think what happens is that people who come from maybe upper class, they come from money, they can go to arts colleges, or, you know, they can go pursue that not on their own dime.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they have an ability to place themselves in these expensive cities that have more opportunities, and they can, from an earlier start, and more persistently, keep going to auditions and keep trying things. But even the math on that is hard. Even the people who are talented in that area is difficult. So why do you do it? Because, and I know there's probably a lot of answers to that. I could answer it myself in different ways. But why did you start acting and pursuing that craft? And why do you continue to do it? What fulfills you from it?
I've always been a pretty creative person. When I was younger, I would write stories and plays to put on for family. Then when I was in high school, I had a great drama teacher who was just so professional and had this class, like there was this safe space. I think a lot of kids feel that way in the arts. It really helped me having this group that I was comfortable with and being able to do something that was just so much fun and so enjoyable. And I've never had something that I felt like I'm good at this and I really love it. Like math, science, no. Like, but acting and drama, like the whole theater feel, it was just such an amazing feeling. And I just wanted to keep doing it. For like all the time, full time.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you like how much I love it. It makes me feel fulfilled and it gives me purpose, telling stories and hopefully connecting to people. 'Cause life is hard and I hope there's people out there I can resonate with and connect with. Yeah, and I don't know. I just need it. It's a drug.
You know, you hit on a few things there, but I think ultimately what you're saying is for the love of it. And that you touched on connection makes a lot of sense to me, because I think that was what I was after when I was younger and I had these big dreams. And as I've tempered my dreams in reality, what hasn't changed is the fact that it's connection. In fact, it's taken more precedence. I think if I was really honest, I wanted to be famous when I was a kid. I wanted to be in action movies, and I saw what other people were doing on TV, and I thought so highly of them. I thought I wanted to be like that. I wanted to emulate it. And I think in many ways I had the right predisposition in terms of talent, and I certainly had some of the right people in my life to help cultivate that. You know, my parents being some of them that I was able to really discover my passion and grow into something. But connecting is more why I do it now. It's not about becoming famous or for the attention. And what I've noticed is there's been an inverse in the quality of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
The authenticity, as I've grown over the years as an artist, is really, I guess I'm so much more proud of my recent stuff than I am of maybe some of my earlier stuff, or the stuff that was striving or trying to be something I wasn't. So I think the artist path is a tough one, but when you do seek connection and that's your focus, it's a much more joyful one, because even smaller opportunities, that our younger self might have thought, well, it's not a Hollywood movie. Like even things like that become an avenue with which you can connect to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You get to actually, and I'm fascinated by actors because you get to be something. Do you pretend or do you be it? What are your thoughts on that?
I would say we be the character. And ultimately, like my body and mind is still myself. So I would just incorporate myself into the characters.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Can you give an example?
The last play I did, I was playing like a teenage girl, love struck over this much older man.
Hmm.
And even though that's something I never encountered, I remembered things from high school that I dealt with, like the still crushing on like some boy.
Yeah.
And, I remembered those emotions and those feelings and I apply them to the character I'm playing.
So you tap in, even in a way, like you're connecting to the character almost empathetically,
Yeah.
as if you and that person were sitting down and they tell you their life story and you say, my life might be different, but I can relate to you in this way. This is something that I've experienced that's kind of similar. Even if it's a fictional character, even how, I guess, okay, I am all over the place, but I don't know how to articulate this. I've had such strong feelings for characters. I've had such deep connection with characters. There's some, I don't know if they're in the shot or not, but I've got some Stargate action figures up there. Friggin' love that show. Like, I had the biggest crush on Amanda Tapping. She was a badass. I had such affinity for them in a way that I honestly maybe didn't connect with real people, especially younger. It was like, that was my world. And it seems as an actor, you've got this interesting experience of being able to connect with maybe sometimes totally fake people in very real and genuine ways, like an empathetic practice that is as good as the real thing in some ways. Do you think that it makes you in any way more empathetic to the general population, to your friends? Do you feel able to understand people easier?
I think so. I think I'm already a very empathetic person, but being an actor, I think, helps me show it more.
Hmm.
As
Right.
myself, I think I'm a very awkward person who keeps to themselves.
I wasn't going to say it, but this whole conversation, just pure awkward.
But I think acting has helped me to grow and connect with real people.
Well,
as well.
that's a cool thing too, because sometimes introverted artists, they get caught up in their craft, and that's their world, and they disconnect from reality. But yours seems like it's a way that you can connect to reality, because the tool that you are practicing connecting to others with, connecting in a major way, you also get to apply to real life and to real people. Were you an emotionally stable kid?
Try not to laugh. Kid, yes.
Maybe it's a weird question, but I want to roll with it.
I think child, yes. Teenager, definitely not.
Me either.
Yeah, it's very sensitive.
Have you
Which
come
isn't a
out of
bad
that
thing.
some?
Yes. Yes and no. I think I know how to handle it better. I think I've gained a lot of confidence, and when I was younger, I had absolutely no confidence, no self-esteem,
Mm,
and growing into that and kind of accepting myself and learning to love myself has definitely helped.
that's great.
Yeah.
How did you do that? How did you learn to have some love for yourself?
Um, well, it started with acting. It's something one of the only things I felt I was actually good at
Hmm.
and enjoyed. So that helped. I was like, if I'm nothing else, I know I'm a good actor. Um, and then it's still a work in progress. It's about like, I don't know, this is me. If you don't like it, then I can't change it. I'm tired of changing for people.
Yeah.
So
Changing for people is not usually a good motivation.
no.
Changing to be a better version of yourself is.
Yes.
And if it's the right people in your life, they may encourage you to be the best version of yourself, but I find it's usually through empathy or example. These people really do love you. They really care about you. And when you really love and care about someone, you can see their flaws at times, or you can see ways that they could improve as a person. And it's your job to try to help themselves, I guess. It's maybe not an obligation in certain friendship scenarios, at certain levels, someone you don't know too well. But like, I don't know, my best friends and I, like me and my buddy Garrett, we're pretty straight with each other.
Yeah.
And if one of us does something, even just in our personal lives, like I don't know, I do something, I'm pig-headed with my wife or something, we have an argument, but I'm in the wrong, and I'm like telling him about it. He'll be like, suck it up, like he'll call me out on that shit because he knows that I'm capable of doing better.
Yeah.
And that's where like the love comes in, is that he genuinely thinks that I'm a worthwhile individual who can make these changes and grow. But there's people I think who can criticize, and it's not coming from a place of love. They're just looking to tear you down or have superiority over you.
Mm-hmm.
Being an actor, what gives you the most joy? Is it acting itself, being in the moment, or is it afterwards when it's all done, and if it's a film or something, and you see it, and you see what you did, and you experience the moment with the score and everything else going on?
Oh, I have so many thoughts. First thought, I do love theater more than film, but film is amazing in that sense. Like you have something to hold afterwards.
Right.
And then with the music and the editing and everything, oh, it's amazing. But the best part about acting is connecting to other people. Like it's, movie scenes, like you're rarely going to have those really like deep romantic scenes or, those like really traumatic grieving scenes. Because in theater and film, like, they're just so perfectly romantic or perfectly tragic, right?
Right.
Yeah, and it's just, I find it's rare in life. I mean, it happens, but it's just so exciting and big and powerful and life-changing. Just, yeah, it's amazing.
I find
Such
that
a rush.
Yeah, I find that in books too.
Yes.
Getting to experience someone's story from their head, and it's this huge dramatic thing, and it blows you away, and then you think, man, my life's nothing like that sometimes. But
yes,
sometimes it is. And I've thought about in art, execution's everything, right? You can have a bunch of really great ideas, but if the idea is not executed well, it's going to suck, right? A poorly written script, a poorly shot scene, like these things really play a role. If you were objectively looking at your own life, you might think this is not the best idea for fiction, right? Like, it's not super exciting. Like, no one has made out with me in the rain today. Like you don't have the kind of Hollywood movie life, you think. But this is, I think what I was trying to say with execution is more important than ideas, is that someone can look at your life and it can be a movie to them.
Yeah.
They can see the cinematic intensity. And I think you see that sometimes, with people like in a romantic relationship, someone who loves you, like they see you in a light that no one else sees you. And they love you for it. And that's like finding a gem of a film that no one else has seen, maybe. And you're like, really, it's so beautiful. Like, can't you just see the story arcs and that ass, like I'm conflating a metaphor here. But whatever it is, you see something and it's beautiful and wonderful. And so that's where we can lose sight of our own humanity by just chasing after everyone else's stories. And sometimes I wonder if it's useful to look at our own lives as a kind of film. I wonder if it's not useful too in the same breath. Like maybe that's not a healthy way to think about it. Oh, what do you think? I don't know what I think. I'm asking.
I don't know. That's a really good question. I guess. Whether
we ought to think of ourselves as movies or not is maybe another way to say it.
I think this would be a good lesson in, like, now when I go home, maybe I'll appreciate moments more that might appear to be more cinematic. But otherwise, like in theater or film, I guess you get to enjoy the moment more as an actor.
Right.
Like when I'm breaking down and crying, like everyone's watching me. I can take my time. I don't have to like wipe my eyes and then go back to work or something. I'm just kidding. But
unless the scene calls for it.
Unless the scene calls for it.
Yeah. How do you cry? I had such a hard time. I did for my most recent music video, Loser.
Yeah.
I had a very brief moment. It was much more a longer clip, and I was by myself when I filmed it, and I had to use music for sure to kind of get in the zone. But I think about other cinematic moments when you would have a crew or there's something else going on and there's an acting partner that you're having to play off of. And you've got to pull that all off and get emotional and break down. And I know you've done that. How do you do that?
Music plays a big part. And then I'm essentially using Halees, my own emotions and memories, again, for this character. So if this character is really upset that they, like, lost their loved one or, like, their partner, I've never lost, like, partner or a spouse. But I might remember, like, when my dog died, and it's, like, the same. You're going to portray the same emotion, I think. I just find something that's going to get me there to what I think the character will be feeling. I want to feel how the character will feel.
But that you can do that is crazy to me in a way that's near on command. That someone can say, hey, on this day, could you cry, please, a little bit? And you can go, yeah, I can make that happen. And you do a bit of pre-work, you work out a little bit, you get that in your head, and then the moment arises and you're in the zone and it happens. That to me, it's incredible. And I wonder how much is skill, because it takes skill, and then how much is also predisposition or like personality, because you're more introverted, you had implied, and you're, I imagine, a sensitive person in that you feel a lot of things, as you said too. High school, you've reined it in a bit, but it's still sometimes tumultuous. Is it that you are so able to feel these emotions that you can channel them? Or is it that you've also learned to carve the channels do you know what I mean? Like to actually convey them, like you've learned how to dig for them better.
Oh, okay.
Boy, that was heady. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, I am a very sensitive person. In theater school, we had this like a casting director come in, and we all had to stand up in front of him. We've never met him, and he was looking at us and just essentially telling us what our type was just from looking at us.
Wow.
And he told me I had very sad eyes and there was a lot of pain in my eyes. And I think that's, I don't know, I think that's true. I am, but I've heard like, I've got a lot of comments that I'm depressed. And, I think I hold a lot of sadness, so it is easy to come out. I do a lot more dramas than comedies, but I watch more comedies.
Because you're so dramatic.
Because I'm so
You have to
dramatic, yeah.
Yeah, you got to offset it.
But also breath is really amazing in like channeling me there too. I find you get a good breath going and it's kind of like, oh no, something bad is happening.
Yeah, so you kind of, I had a similar experience as an amateur actor. I did 2 years of university. I studied psychology primarily, but I otherwise got involved in the theater department. And I got cast in a couple plays, and it was great, and it was a lot of fun. And I took courses on drama. And we had one where you had to do an exercise, a one-person scene, and they were all of immense intensity. And you had no props. You can have one prop. You could have one prop. Otherwise, you had to literally mime the kitchen sink. You had to mime taking your coat off and hanging it off. So it was just like comfort in space that wasn't there. So dumb. Just kidding. It baffled me a bit, but I tried my best. And breathing, I picked the hardest scene, in my opinion, I thought, to pull off, because I thought, well, I'm going to really challenge myself. And it was, admittedly, bit of a trigger warning, it was committing suicide was the scene. Was playing a guy who was washing the dishes and cleaning up a little bit, and then spontaneously would go and get a gun and shoot himself in the head.
Oh, wow.
So it was and the gun was my only prop. And it had an orange end on it.
Of course.
Yes. So, and in that scene, I did little else but induce a panic attack, because I walked around, I did the things, I mimed it out. And then when it came time that, okay, now I'm going to go through this big action, I focused on my breath and just kind of starting like hyperventilating almost, just up and down. And eventually, at the time, I had started to have panic attacks. So I was like, I'm going to tap into that. And I got all numbed face, and I crouched on the ground, and there was, tears, and not even just my own, but there was there were people watching in the class that I remember one of them audibly gasped. We're like, and I could see them crying. Well, it's a very triggering thing to portray, which I think was the idea. But that was what the teacher or the professor said to me afterwards. She said, I loved your choice about breath, how you just repeated the same breathing pattern, and it escalated and escalated and escalated. And I said, that was a panic attack. But I guess there's immense power in the breath.
Yeah.
Have you found that as well, like working yourself up into a state of frenzy and anxiety? Or is it tap into that sadness and emotion that you can carry so well?
Do you mean, do I start the breath, or does it
Yeah,
kind of happen?
Yeah, poorly phrased question. Do
No,
you
that's
start
okay.
with the action to tap into the emotion? Or is it like the emotion is there and then you're like, okay, now the action's coming out?
Okay.
Totally different question, by the way, than whatever the hell I said before.
I would say I try and start with the emotion or the memories, and then the action definitely helps bring it out.
Man, it's such a fascinating art form to me. I love how stories help us process the world. We are moved so strongly by stories. We all have favorite movies and favorite books. And it seems to me that when you portray a character and you embody a character, it's such a amazing, privileged thing. I don't mean like privileged, like in a snarky way. I mean, like, what a privilege to be able to be the one who sheds light on this thing.
Hmm.
And I think a theme that's come up before for me on this podcast and conversations I have, and it's probably just because I'm really trying to understand it, is how fiction can reveal truth. Fiction can show something truer than reality. Do you feel that way? Do you get that sense? Or do you feel like it's an escape from reality?
I would say life is art, right? Um, I think sometimes I use it as an escape because, I get to be people that I'm not. I get to pretend to do things that I normally
Right.
don't get to do. Um, hmm. But ultimately, like, there's an underlying theme and an underlying message, right? And I think that's always applicable to life, real life.
Hmm. If you're
Did that make sense? Did that answer the question?
No, it does. It does. And I'm building off of it. Do you, when you're working through something emotionally in real life, if you are dealing with a bit of depression or sadness or something like that, do you ever think to act somehow? Because I know the nature of acting is there's like project to project. Here's a gig here, there's a gig there are no gigs here
Yeah.
in this block. And so, for me, I'm, I get into an emotional zone. I have a punching bag through that wall that I can hit. And then when I can sit, maybe I'll work on music here and I'll come up with something and it'll immediately be able to process something.
Right.
But I imagine with acting, do you have that like immediate ability to get into it? Or is it something that it comes out in the pockets of projects that you have? Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're processing something, can you become an actor all of a sudden? And now I'm going to play a role even though there's no cameras on me.
Right. It depends what it is. If it's relatable, it'll probably come out. If not, I know, like, to just chuck it in a bag and leave it at the door. That's
Is that
because you don't
healthy?
want to be that actor who's like on set and then just start crying for no reason, right?
That's what you mean.
But if the scene is emotional and then it just, then you end up upset or thinking about what's going on in your own personal life at the time, then it's
Yeah.
applicable. But
That's
ideally,
interesting.
it's not the way to do things.
Right. Like you have to have this weird barrier in place. Like you contain yourself in a sense to be professional.
Yeah.
And then you uncontain yourself
Yes.
to be professional.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a weird dichotomy.
Yes. And one of the hardest things to learn was, you get so built up in a scene and then you end up like taking it home and then you're upset like for, however
wow.
long, and you have to learn that to like cut that out too.
Yeah, that's interesting to me. That's like a loss of identity.
Mm-hmm.
Like you step into a role so effectively. Do you do that interpersonally outside of acting with your immense empathy skills? And I don't mean that in a silly way. I can tell you're a very empathetic person. Do you just find that in ordinary life you take on the weight of others' suffering?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Can you help that, or does it just happen?
Sometimes I can, I don't know, distract myself, or just it's easier to let go, and other times I will hang on to it for a while, and I kind of have to have this big release, be like, it's okay.
Right. So when you were acting with that older gentleman, or playing a character who fell in love, did you like go home and be like, have the hots for that guy?
No, not quite.
Not in that case. Was it a complex role? Like you felt sorry for the character in some way, or happy for her, or
For my character?
yeah? Did you have some connection to her emotional reaction that lasted with you?
It was really hard because this character was so outgoing and confident, and like she was flirting with this guy, like she was madly in love with him, and I'm not like that. So it was really hard, and also like I felt so uncomfortable. Intimate scenes make me feel more uncomfortable. Um, yeah, so it was a work in progress trying to get over that,
Hmm.
and then just accept it. The actor is such a nice guy, and I'm very lucky that he was the person I got to work with
Right.
because that makes a difference too. If you don't have that connection with another actor, then it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah, he wasn't like, come here, hot lips.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, there's so much about that I think a lot of people who aren't wanting to be actors, I know that they sometimes wonder like, how can you do that? How could you like kiss somebody in a scene who's like not your real partner? Or how could you like, they sometimes assume that you must identify with the character in some way. You must
Mm,
have a bridge between you and them that's somehow strong. Well, I mean, you look at like Hollywood marriages that break up left, right, and center and stuff. I'm
yes.
thinking of, I don't know how much of it's true, but like the well rumored Brad and Angelina stuff
Mm,
that Brad and Jennifer Aniston were like acting together or something, and then they became an item because they were playing a romantic role, or them and the other one, whatever it was.
right.
But that sort of thing seems to happen like crazy in Hollywood. And so
Hmm.
people, I think, who don't engage with the process of acting, like, okay, I'm putting on a hat here, I'm tapping into something, but ultimately at the end of the day, there is a schism between me and this person. It's
Yeah,
not the same thing. Sometimes people just feel like it must be the same,
probably.
or there's something super sinisterly similar about the actor and the character, that why can this person dig in so deeply or perform so well?
Yeah.
And maybe I was one of those people. Maybe I had those feelings or suspicions, but as I've acted more and, in theater plays and stuff and in my own projects,
Hmm.
I feel like every time that I do something new as an actor, I'm challenging myself and understanding the process more and having more respect for actors, and uh, maybe more intimidation too. When people can pull off stuff that I can't, I just wonder, dear Lord, like that's an incredible gift or an incredible skill. What actors do you look up to? Is there anyone's in mind that you think, man, they're the shit?
They're the shit.
Yeah, that
Um,
phrase exactly, if it passes
mm,
in your mind.
yes. I
And it's okay if you don't have someone too, right?
I would say the actors I want to say I admire the most, maybe at this point in time, are women who write and produce and act in their own stuff. Not because they can do all three, but it is so hard out there to um, work on projects and with auditions. It is so great if you can make your own stuff.
Mhm.
So for those women to, they're like, oh, I'm not getting any work. I'm going to make my own work. That's amazing. So
Yeah.
that'd be like Mindy Kaling.
Oh, I really
Um,
like her.
yeah, she's so great. So funny.
My wife likes her even more though, because I think I loved her in The Office,
Yeah.
and my wife saw Mindy Kaling's show. I think she
Yes.
really loved that, and I haven't
Yes.
seen it yet.
So good.
Yeah,
You should see it.
maybe I will. Maybe I will. I think I really enjoy when people have that tenacity to, well, identify with that, I guess.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that, we're Alberta artists. There's not a lot of opportunities here.
Hmm.
And even if there were, there'd be a lot of competition. And here's something I know about myself. I'm 6'6". I'm not going to be cast in any action films, probably ever,
Mm.
because I'm not 6'6" and 230 pounds of sheer muscle, right? I'm a lot thinner than that. And therefore, if I stand next to any other actor, usually I look ridiculous. And, Tom Cruise is a short guy,
Hmm.
but there are guys who are a little bit taller than him. And basically, they all just they look taller on screen. But if I stood next to Tom Cruise, he would look like some kind of misshapen dwarf, because if I was the standard he was compared to. So
Yeah.
that's why guys like me don't. Or I'm like the guy in John Wick 3, the basketball player that John Wick in the beginning of the film like breaks his jaw and stuff. Like that would be the guy that I get to play.
Yeah.
And so that was a tangent, but the idea is there's no opportunities, and I suspect I would not be strongly given opportunities for the roles that I'd love to get.
Yeah.
So I guess I've sought making my own projects, maybe selfishly starring in them at times, but I guess it's an expression I just love to make happen.
Yeah.
And that I'm doing it is thrilling, even in the small scale that it is.
Yeah. No, that's excellent. I don't think that's selfish at all. I think if a big action movie comes up and you have the chance to audition for it, I think you should, because if they really want you, they will make all the other actors stand on apple boxes. So don't limit yourself.
I never thought of that.
Yeah. But no, I think it's amazing that you're making your own work anyway, as I imagine it's a lot, like just so much more fulfilling to write your own story and then be able to portray it and have it, like, be able to decide what it's going to look like and what you're going to say exactly. And the fact that you do it with a family is just amazing.
Well, thanks. But it helps that my wife is my main camera person.
Yeah.
And that she's been getting progressively better and better, and that she has a knack for it. That is definitely helpful. But I mean, just think of the practicality here. Childcare. If me and my wife want to go film me gallivanting in some creek somewhere, who's watching the kids? And it's COVID. So
Yeah.
it becomes, it's been a challenge to try to make this things work. But I've had a lot of help from, I think, besides the skill involved in my craft, maybe, of actually filming, making the music, whatever it is I'm doing, the skill of asking people and getting people involved in these projects, for whatever part of that is a skill, I am so grateful for it. I've had so many opportunities and so many things in my life happen just because I've put myself out there and asked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just amazing what can happen when you asked. Well, we're working together and we didn't know each other prior.
Yeah, that's very true.
And to get your involvement in a project of such an emotionally demanding scale, and a small scale, but very emotionally demanding, I really, really wanted to work with somebody who was like a real actor, somebody who had the skill, the proclivity, and you were recommended to me, and I've been very impressed.
Oh, good.
But it's been really crazy too, like just to be a director trying to work with an actor. I feel like all of those were very disjointed thoughts. And it's not because I'm scrambling for the right thing to say. I think it's because I have so many thoughts about it. I get really excited when it comes to film and acting that my ADHD comes out, and I just start saying words that have to do with it. Have you done your own projects? Have you thought about doing your own projects? Because you admire it in others, and you admire it in, in women in particular, and you're one of those.
I am.
So, have you thought about, or have you, picked up the pen? Have you thought about writing a short film, getting a crew together, directing something? What have you been thinking?
In film school, I had the opportunity to shoot my own film. So I wrote the script for it, starred in it, and I was very lucky because we were in film school. We had all the equipment. I had my classmates. So it's perfect. And it was awesome. It was shown at Jasper Film Festival.
Oh, man.
Small, but everyone in the audience loved it.
That's so great.
Yeah. And I've written other scripts that I would love to film, but I just don't have the energy that you have.
Well, you've got a lot going on too. I mean, having a real job sucks a lot of energy.
It does. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But maybe one day. Oh, and it's also hard because of We're in a small Albertan town where a lot of people don't even know what the Fringe is.
Right.
But now that we've met, I can use you.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
So
Well,
that's exciting.
and I'm excited. Besides the project we're working on now, my music video, I'm excited to do more stuff with you in the future. I think it's going to be great because it is a small town, and I don't know many artistic types in town. Probably don't know many people in general, but it's a thrill. Like I discovered my neighbors who lended me this mug because they listen to the podcast. They always see that I'm drinking coffee, and they've got this great collection of mugs. And they suggested, "Oh man, you should just borrow our mugs because we've got these artisanal, made in Edson. A lot of them, like a lot of these great mugs." So I thought, yes, great idea. But they're photographers and they're very talented. And this was, a great dearth of discovery for me. I was like, wow, I didn't know there were these people in town. And then I went to photography club as well. And I've discovered that though they are few, there are creative people in a town. And we have like a creative network that the town has put on called Canoe Creative Arts Network. And that's something that I've gotten involved with just for resources, like who's doing what? How can we connect? How can we help each other? And that was actually how I connected with you, is because at the end of that session where we're all just, talking about businesses and stuff and what everybody's doing, I asked the question, I'm shooting a music video. I desperately need somebody who is going to be really good in a challenging role. And I don't want to I don't want to fly them in from LA or, how can is there someone local who's awesome? And then the people who recommended you to me didn't know if you were local still, but they were like, two of them were like, this is the person, Halee's the person. And then I reached out and pitched it to you and you were willing and I'm thrilled about that. I wish I could talk more about it. Part of me doesn't want to spoil, but it is for the music video, Her Smile, which, why did you agree to do it?
It sounded like a great idea. You made a good pitch.
Oh,
No.
well, thank you. And there you have it.
Yeah, that was it.
Learn how to pitch.
It was just a really interesting story. I loved the character that I get to play. And the lyrics were good. I'm not going to lie, I was a little suspicious about a musician. I'm a rapper in Edson, but
I don't blame you.
it was legit. It was good. And I was like, yes.
I get that. I appreciate the honesty, but I get that all the time.
I bet.
Yeah. It's funny how locale can play a role in what people think you can do. I think even if I were truly honest, being from a small town is something that I'm learning to embrace. But I had negative experience in small town. The idea of trying to do artsy things and feeling like I couldn't. It's a dichotomy because I also could in some aspects. There was talent shows. There was things that I did get to do, but in the start of a lot of these podcasts, I often introduce myself as, I'm Servant. I don't say from Edson, Alberta. I just usually say from Alberta, Canada.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a somewhat subconscious at first, but then I think ultimately conscious decision where I got a little bit tired of people being like, where's Edson? And if you say, I'm from a small town, Edson, Hinton, Whitecourt, anything like this in this area, it's not, people just think you can't be any good. And that's terrible. And so I think in my aversion, that natural instinct to want to, protect that, I'm cool and I can do cool things, I'm doing a disservice to the community. And that really I should be wearing this more as a flag, not because I'm not all about the town. It's not my life. It's part of who I am, where I am, but that I shouldn't be ashamed of it. It should be at least an inert fact that doesn't bother me. Yeah, I'm from Edson. What's the beef? Doesn't matter. And I think that as I am slowly getting more comfortable with that, I'm seeing fruit from it, where a lot of people are having that double take where they go, really, rapper Edson? And then I show them my stuff, or they see my stuff and they go, oh, I was fucking wrong.
Yeah.
I was wrong to make that assumption. This is actually good, or this is worthy material. He's trying hard.
Yeah.
And then it's changing perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And wouldn't it be nice if some of that stigma about being in from a small Albertan town or something was gone, even in the minds of a handful of people? Wouldn't that be a good thing?
Yes.
And wouldn't that be a good thing for maybe the minds of those people and their children as they're raising them? And maybe they're creative. Maybe they're encouraging them. I just think that, our individual actions can ultimately spread out. And that's why I'm thrilled that you're from Edson. I'm thrilled that it's really practical too in terms of shoots and stuff like that. Like, yeah. So that's been really nice.
Yeah.
But it's thrilling because I'm less alone as an artist, as one more person that I'm like, yeah, they're doing it. They care. They see the world in a similar way as I. Do you feel like, no, I want to ask this. What advice would you give yourself, your younger self, knowing all that you know now, all the craft, everything that you've learned along the way in your journey of being an actor, and, all the emotional ups and downs of life and expectations, everything? What kinds of things might you say to your younger self who is looking with, wide blue eyes at the television screen and thinking, this is the life, this is what I want to do?
Yeah. I tell myself it is definitely not going to be easy. So get that out of your head for sure. It's going to be the hardest thing you're ever going to do, and the hardest thing you're ever going to have to keep doing. And also, I've kind of learned this as I'm growing and learning to love myself, that, I love acting, and it is such a big part of me, but it's not the only part of me. And, in theater school, you're kind of taught, like, you have to be the ideal image for the casting director. So you have to kind of, be malleable. Like, don't dye your hair. You can't have tattoos. You can't have piercings, which I understand. If you're going to do a period piece, you can't have like a tattoo on your face. But at the same time, like, life is so short. If I want to dye my hair, I'm going to dye my hair. So I've done a bit of that. I've done a bit of, if I want to wear my favorite bright yellow polka dot shirt into an audition, I'm going to do that. Like, I'm not going to fit that plain box for whatever. And if they don't want to cast me for that, then that's fine too. I would just tell myself, don't give up, because most of the projects I do are worth it. And I think they get me farther, and they make me feel good. They make life worth living. I mean, not just that, but it's good.
Yeah, but even in part, that's a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah. I like that. I think it's very honest, it's very good advice. And what a shame that we can't give ourselves advice like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think, but I'm glad that you said that, because my hope is that, here in our community and beyond, that there is going to be that wide-eyed person looking down the barrel of the future, and that some of that sense will come through. We got to learn from people who have had a bit of experience. And so I have a big heart for giving advice, to my younger self, and as consequence, younger versions of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you for that. Is there anything else that, knowing that my audience is creative people mostly, it's in general people who are quite creative, and, the show is about keeping people in the zone of creativity, encouraging it. I'm starting to notice, and I'm really thrilled about, some people are often painting while listening to the podcast. Like, they're pairing it with a creative activity, which is so mind-blowing, validating.
Awesome.
Knowing that these are people who are creative, and they're looking at life in a similar way as you. Is there anything else that you might like to say to them?
I guess try new creative things. If you're not already, that's awesome. I'm going to try some painting
Yeah.
while listening to podcasts.
I don't know if I could do it.
No?
No. I don't think I could concentrate. I'm really severely like one thing at a time. Well, you've noticed, I'm sure at this point with me, like, on set, like filming or something and trying to act at the same time. Not so easy, right?
You honestly just seem very passionate and you have lots of energy, which is great. I'm
Yeah.
a very low energy person. But yeah, no, I think it's awesome. You just come off as you really love what you're doing, which I think makes the whole group really love being a part of it too.
Well, that's very nice to hear. I can't contain myself. I do. I have high enthusiasm for sure. If I'm passionate about something,
Yeah.
it comes out, and it's probably a good quality in this case. But you say you're low energy, but I don't think that's true either. I think that's
Okay.
that's a misdirection. I think that you have immense energy for doing things and for accomplishing them, but the way that you disperse it might be a bit different. Like I'm thinking of a scene in particular that I was filming you, so I was behind the camera, and you were getting emotional, and you were being in the zone for that. And prior to that scene, we were joking around, and the crew, we were having a good time. But you were also, I could tell, shifting focus a little bit. And then I asked you, how could I help you so that I'm not an annoying guy when you're trying to act your heart out? How can I facilitate that? And you gave me good advice just about, not cracking inappropriate jokes and stuff like that, which I was grateful for. But then on camera, like, I can see you come alive where you really are tapping into something, and that this painting you're part of is fully expressed. So don't discount your energy necessarily, or certainly the way that it's coming out, because we need all forms. Maybe we need people like me jumping up and down once in a while,
Yes.
but we also need people who are able to refine it more.
Okay.
So
Well, thank you for that.
that's my advice for you.
It's nice to hear.
Yeah. And I think we're gonna end with that. You've been a lovely guest. Thank you for being my first in-person studio guest. So,
Yay!
yes. Yeah, I'm thrilled. Thank you very much, Halee.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. If you found any of this valuable, please consider subscribing, recommending this to a friend, or leaving a positive review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you happen to be listening. If you watch this on my Servant YouTube channel or Facebook page, please leave a comment and share. I love to hear from my listeners and learn from them. Learn more about me at www.servant.com. That's SRVENT.com. Thank you again for your time. Now go be creative and sane.